Competent Communicator designation from Toastmasters. He's certified as a senior professional in human resources from the Society of Human Resource Management. Earned his certification from the Center of... Did you specifically make this really hard to read? Earned his certification from the Center of the Application of Psychological Type to administer and interpret Myers-Briggs type indicator instruments. Holds a Bachelor of Science from the Clarion University in Accounting, a Master of Science from La Roche College in Human Resource Management, and is currently pursuing a Master's of Science in Organizational Leadership from Palm Beach Atlantic University. He spent more than 20 years working as an operations manager, store manager, HR manager, regional manager for some of the most recognizable names in the retail and service industries. Scott currently owns his own consulting practice, which is hopefully very successful, and is thrilled to share with you some of the key insights he learned over his career in his speech entitled Moving Past Situational Leadership. Thank you.
By show of hands, how many of you have parts of your job that you like to do better than other parts of your job? Interesting. How many of you have parts of your job that you do better than other parts of your job? If you would have asked that question before 1970, not a single hand would have gone up. Because until the early 70s, people were considered to be a whole part of their job. Jobs weren't considered to be an accumulation of tasks. Jobs were considered to be just a job. You did the whole thing or you did none of it at all. Then in 1970, a couple of guys got together and wrote a book called Managing Organizational Behavior. Ken Blanchard and Paul Hershey. And they launched what became known as situational leadership. Their goal was simple. They viewed jobs as different than being just a whole part, but an accumulation of tasks that one has to do in order to complete the job as a whole. Their theory was great leaders aren't concerned about the job as a whole. Great leaders are able to adapt and flex their style to the maturity level of the individuals or groups that they influence. What a revolutionary concept it was. I've been teaching situational leadership since 1993. And there are a couple of universal truths that have become known to me I'm going to share with you. First, it works. If you use situational leadership the way it's written, it works. Their theory is simple. Individuals move through jobs and move through tasks at different rates. You have a certain level of willingness to do a task and a certain level of ability to do a task. I need to manage people differently depending upon where they are within the developmental cycle of that task. When they first start, they're considered to not know much about the individual job. You need to be able to direct that great level of motivation they come to with and say, I'm going to do this. What are we doing? They don't know where to go. They're an enthusiastic beginner. Then they learn just enough to make themselves realize, I don't want to do this anymore. This stinks. A disillusioned learner. Now they need to be coached, both to do the task and to want to do the task. Eventually, they become an emerging contributor. The third level of maturity within this Myers-Briggs, within the situational leadership world. Those individuals are the ones that can do the task, but for one reason say, not so much. They've either been thrust into a role they don't like, thrust into a task they don't like, or something that they've done before and have moved away from. And then hopefully they end up becoming a peak performer. Somebody can just delegate to, let them run with it. They'll do whatever you ask them to with that task because they can do it well and they love to do it. That brings us to the second universal truth. Nobody uses it the way it's supposed to be used. It works if you use it the right way. Nobody does it. Nobody. Since 1993, I've yet to see a single person use situational leadership the way it's supposed to be used. Why? First, when you have individuals doing tasks, have you ever known someone that learns just enough about a task to realize they love it? Where does that fit? There are holes within the model that you can't necessarily fill with the model itself. So managers fill in the blanks with what they end up remembering And what they remember are the words. They remember the phrases. They remember, you're an enthusiastic beginner. You're a disillusioned learner. And that sticks with them forever. That bias, you're always going to be enthusiastic, but a beginner. And you, my friend, are always going to be disillusioned. It doesn't work. That's not who the people are. That's what they were in the task. Big problem with that. People don't know how to move past their biases. That's why over the past 10 years, I have developed a model of situational leadership that's a task-based management behavior. Because the third and final problem with situational leadership has nothing to do with leadership. Leadership is about vision and strategy in the long term. Management is about the task, the short term, the here and now. It's a task management process. That's why I developed predictive performance management. It is a task-based management system that fills in what situational leadership leaves out. We know what to do. We know whether we're supposed to support, direct, coach, delegate, but how? Do I manage Fabio the exact same way that I manage Gary? Do they interpret the world the same way? Do they think the same way? Does Kathy have the same innate skills that Denise has? Does Denise have the exact same weaknesses that Kitty has? But nowhere in situational leadership does it tell you how to do that. That's why I've infused Myers-Briggs into the task-based management model to not just show what to do, but how to do it. The other thing I've infused in there is learning styles. Is every single person here a kinesthetic learner? Is everyone an auditory learner? A visual learner? You're all different. The great thing with the world these days is that we've learned that the golden rule no longer applies. It's not about treat others the way you want to be treated yourself. Who cares how you want to be treated? The titanium rule says treat others the way they want to be treated. As a manager, you need to meet people where they are. If you're continually trying to meet them where you are, you're never going to build a relationship and develop them to where they can possibly go. If you incorporate Myers-Briggs, strength-based training, little learning styles, and alter what task-based management is supposed to be about, you can inform people and motivate them to perform in ways they can never seem possible. I've used it for 10 years. If you follow my blog, you'll see that I've started writing about it, and you're going to see a book come out about it later this year.
Great.
Okay? Predictive performance management. It moves past situational leadership to help you solve your people puzzle. All right,